Hey guys, it's Josh, and welcome back to the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad, your favorite podcast for learning how to balance between being a functional adult and a raging dumpster fire. Everyone says that love is a mystery, right? Wrong. Today's guest, Zoey Charif, spent almost 2 decades proving that the whole fall in love isn't random, it's a formula. Forget fate, forget luck. Zoe says love can literally be calculated. Once you know the right math, you'll never look at dating the same. Zoe, welcome to the Bachelor Pad. How are we doing today?
Thank you so much, and it's my goal for us to avoid the dumpster fire of what is love, what we call love, and how to make smart decisions and grounded decisions and how to measure love decisions.
I'm pretty sure every single one of my listeners would appreciate avoiding the dumpster fire. I was like, it definitely makes my stories a little more interesting, but my heart can't take any more.
That's so funny. Oh my god. That's such a great way to put it. In fact, I had avoided a dumpster no, I went through a dumpster fire maybe 4 years ago, and that's when I decided, "No more. I can't do this anymore." And I started applying my own theory to my life, and then eventually I got married. I'm like, "Okay, so there is something to this. We need to publish this ASAP and just share the world that, yeah, there are ways to avoid it."
Listen, striking while the iron is hot is crucial. And you spent years on years decoding patterns. So, what was like that moment where you finally were convinced that attraction isn't magic? Maybe it's a bit of math.
Yeah, actually 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I had my heart broken. I was cheated on. And that's when I'm like, I need to understand this. This is an awful feeling. So, like the 30, 40 tabs I had open on my computer at that time, there's one in particular that stood out. And in this article, the author had written, "You can't fall in love with someone unless they're a match." So in my head, I was thinking, well, did my partner cheat on me because I wasn't a match? Okay, hold on, but what is a match? What is not a match? And that's where the theory just kind of started. And I started to realize that we evaluate a match based on where we stand in life, which I call top values, right? And an assessment of your standards and how well you feel you're meeting your own standards. And then also how your partner meets your standards. So you assign yourself a score, you assign your partner a score, and then you compare those scores. And so the theory evolved in the last 20 years. Now I don't just look at values, I also look at partner traits, right? What is the attraction here, right? Do they fit or do they have those inherent traits that you're typically drawn to? You assign a score to that. And if their score for both values and traits match your score, then excellent. But even better is when they have 4% above you because then we're falling in the realm of admiration. And the analytics are showing that the people who are currently together rate their partner as just slightly above them, not a match, just slightly above. And the ones who rated their partner as slightly below with -5% were in an on and off relationship. So they were still unfulfilled. So that's a very long winded way of telling you how how I started this.
I think that was super relevant and it really does help because that's relatable. I think everybody, they use the term, are you punching up? They always feel like one person's punching up, somebody is quote unquote settling. So that is, I mean, you kind of scientifically proved that we all try to punch up because that admiration is something that we adore, like adore to be in a situation. And I couldn't agree more. You know,
Yeah.
people love to be chased, don't always love when it feels like too easy. So like when they feel that like their person may be scoring higher, that's almost like a chase in a sense.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, so there are personality types that I identified in terms of what people are looking for and the challenge they're looking for. There's one that I call the safety seeker. The healthy safety seeker will look for an exact match or maybe slightly lower, right? That means that there's not a huge challenge. They have absolute peace of mind. Relationship is fully predictable, right? There's the extreme safety seeker, and these are people who unfortunately have experienced extreme trauma and they're looking for someone who's way below them so that they don't get hurt. They're just fully trying to avoid heartbreak. And the way you avoid heartbreak is by pairing with someone who's not a true match, where if something does break down, you won't really be hurt and you feel like you're fully in control. Those are the safety seekers. The risk takers are the ones who look for a higher score in a partner. The people who are currently together tended to be healthy risk takers. What that means is they're looking for someone just slightly above them, which makes sense because you want to feel lucky in a relationship. But what happens when you're an extreme risk taker? That means that you're looking for a partner who's got a score so much higher than yours that now it falls into infatuation or worship. That's not gonna work either. They're not gonna be attracted to you, or they'll take extreme advantage of you, right? Because you're gonna feel too lucky to be with them, and you might abandon your own standards, and you might abandon, your own, honestly, self-respect. It's very possible when you're in a state of infatuation. All to say that the couples who were currently together, the personality type that they tended to have was the healthy risk taker, people who are looking for a partner that they just slightly admire.
I think it's funny that you use the phrase they want to feel lucky in a relationship. So I have what I call the rollover effect. And that is that when I roll over in the morning, I want to be like, how did I get so lucky to end up with this person? So once again, having this principle before even knowing, before reading your book, just kind of solidifies that there is some validity to this data.
Joy is very simple, the joy of a relationship. And it's as simple as missing someone as feeling like you're lucky to be with them, right? All I've done was measure what luck truly means, right? Or if you feel unfulfilled, why that might be. But it's literally as easy as, to your point, rolling over and just having that thought of, man, like I feel really lucky right now. I feel like I really landed something real. And I love this person's traits, and I love their values, and I love how they treat me. And that makes me want to put in more effort towards a relationship, which, by the way, you will do if you feel lucky. If you don't feel lucky, you're going to get lazy in the relationship, which is also what we found in the analytics and also in my own experience, by the way. Right. So it does happen where you're not feeling lucky and you're like, well, why would I invest? Why would I put effort towards this person if I could just put effort towards myself and feel more fulfilled, or effort towards my friends and family and feel more fulfilled? So, yeah, that feeling of luck really changes the dynamics of the relationship. And also, in my opinion, brings you effortless joy if it's reciprocated. If it's not, then that's a different
That's
story.
the big if that we all look for. Now, half of my listeners are anything like me. We weren't always great test takers. So we've talked about picking scores and doing the math to get said scores. Do you think that commitment phobia is everywhere or is as prevalent as it is because people are just afraid to settle down, or are they too nervous that they're picking the wrong person because they're maybe misinterpreting the scores?
I think it could be both. I think there's one personality type that I identified, which is the extreme critic. And these are commitment phobes because they feel like their partner is never good enough, right? They have very high standards. And unless you're meeting those impossible standards, they're not likely going to engage in a long term relationship. Usually, this comes from a trauma and a need to be perfect and a need to be seen as perfect. Therefore, you need the perfect partner for that sense of image, right? So that's one thing and one reason why people do have commitment phobia. It's a personality thing. Another reason, of course, is just that our standards in this day and age has really bumped up and boosted up. Now it's no longer as simple as, speak as a woman, to be honest with you. Women have these impossible standards put onto us. Be beautiful, be a mom, have excellent energy, always be nurturing, have your career on point, make sure you're domesticated, and do all of that with a smile on your face. And you better be good to your husband on top of that, right? And make money. Dual income is important. That's a lot to put on the shoulders of women, right? So, commitment phobia. Now, men are being taught that this is a normal thing. You see social media, you see media in general and entertainment, and you see all these women who are achieving these things, right? But you don't know what's happening in the background. You don't know if they're truly happy. You don't know if they're feeling overwhelmed. And the reality is that they're probably not perfect. No one is. But I think that men today might be looking for perfection. in women, and I think it's a lot on our shoulders. Now, I'm gonna reverse that a little bit too. I think we can start to look for unicorns as well, and we have to be a little lenient with men. Men are not unicorns, right? There's a lot of pressure on them as well because now not only are they expected to not provide, depending on the household, typically it's dual income, but it depends on and that's another big gray area. No one knows what's right and what's wrong anymore. It used to be
Exactly.
pretty dependent. Now it's a generational thing or a cultural thing. That's a whole other conversation. But no, men feel that same pressure, right? Men also see on social media, like career success, family success, a happy wife, a beautiful wife. And then it looks like they have their shit together, excuse my language, right? But you don't know what's happening in the background. And I think that a lot of women today are looking for unicorns. Like, hey, again, to each their own in terms of what the unicorn means, but I think that that is a big source of commitment phobia, and then image consciousness as well. Asking yourself, "Will this person look good on my social media, Instagram? Do they make enough money?" You know, and
Right.
and yeah, those are some things that you can look at in terms of a package, but if that's the majority of what you're looking at and you're not looking at whether they're dependable and reliable, or that they make you laugh or that they give you comfort and peace of mind, and you're probably not looking at the right things. I'm just saying that we all have our issues here in terms of why reasons for why we cannot commit.
No, that's so true. And you bring up a valid point of the unicorn. It's like we're always searching for this elusive partner who checks every box. But if you're writing a list, it's called a grocery list of what you want or what quantifies as a partner. Once again, if you're anything like me or most people, you go to the grocery store. Do we really get 100% of the things on the list? No, we always walk out and we're like, forgot to get the milk. I forgot to get
Right.
the X, Y, and Z. Keeping that in mind, I think we should, at least I try to give grace whenever I am meeting a new potential partner because we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I mean, you might be perfect for me, but there's still something that we could always improve on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that grace is something that we're really lacking. Also, if we are now highly independent people, right? And we have such a big network of, let's say, friends or social media friends, right? And we're so busy with working out, with work, just so many different things. So now I think that it's harder to compromise when a partner comes into your life and they're not perfect. It's like, well, I'm, building all these things for, and I get that. And I agree with that to some extent, where, if you're fulfilling yourself, make sure that the partner that you're bringing on into your life and into your circle is contributing to that, not anchoring that. Fully agree with that. But I guess the question is, are you being flexible? Especially if you want to be in a relationship. If your goal is to beyond your life that's fulfilling, if your goal is to attract a partner, are you being an extreme critic? In other words, are you giving room and flexibility for imperfection or are you not? And if you're not, then I don't think you'll have a healthy relationship. In fact, the analytics are showing that you probably will not be able to sustain a relationship.
Can't think of any real scenario where rigidness is a benefit opposed to not a setback, but a con at times because having a little bit of plasticity, understanding compromise is what propels us to be better partners, better leaders, better followers, better caretakers. So,
Mhm.
and that's a big thing that we've talked a lot about this season is one of the biggest issues I have with modern dating is I think everybody just kind of gives up or gets fed up when things become inconvenient
Yeah.
and building a life sometimes comes with a little inconveniences or roadblocks.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. If you feel lucky to be with the person, i.e., they have a higher partner score, just slightly, not a lot, you'll be okay feeling inconvenienced. That's where the flexibility comes in. That's where you'll put in efforts, and that's where you'll say, actually, it's okay. You're having an off day. How can I be here for you? Or let me give you space until you're ready to come back. Versus the other way to approach it, which is, oh, F this. Like they totally anchored my peace of mind and I'm not down for this and I'll just bail. It's just not for me. Right. So when the partner score is slightly higher than yours, that's where you'll see effortless desire to be there for the partner and to be flexible. If your flexibility feels like a chore, then that person either might not be good for you, or I would suggest that you review your list of values and traits and ask yourself if what you want is reasonable, or if, that list might not be super conducive to a healthy relationship. It's just about self-awareness at the end of the day.
I completely understand that. And
Mhm.
I think that's a really big thing that I think we're good at as a society to an extent. Sometimes we go a little overboard and do too much hyperbole. Like we knowing your boundaries is one thing, but over enforcing or imposing them completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, to each their own, right? Like, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I am saying if you want to be in a relationship, there's such a need for flexibility and just to chill out with it and work on yourself and ask yourself where this need for perfection is coming from. Was it a parent who was really hard on you? And usually that's where it comes from. Just like feeling embarrassed or feeling like a failure or whatever. Feel a fear of failure is a big one too. Right? So if you hold that within you, I think that you're less likely to give grace when someone is not perfect and when, their perfection dips or whatever.
Right. Now, I want to take a small step back. Well, I guess we should take two steps back.
Okay.
The first one being that we all want to feel lucky in our relationship. Do you ever see cases or are there cases where both parties feel lucky?
Mhm.
That I guess it's perspective, but where they both feel like their partner has a higher score or value than they do.
Yeah, that's actually the perfect couple. So assume I have my top 5 values, right? Those will not necessarily be the top 5 values of someone I connect with. There may be some overlap, but what if my value, for example, one of them might be freedom, right? Freedom of expression. And my partner's top 5 value is not that he does that, but that's not his top 5 value. Maybe one of his top 5 values is communication manners, right? So with that, I might feel like he's more free than me and therefore I admire him. And he might feel like my communication style and manners is just slightly higher above to his and he'll admire me, right? So we're both
Okay.
admiring each other for how they show up based on your standards, right? And again, usually there is overlap, right? But yeah, sometimes it's just kinda like a yin to a yang, if you wanna call it, right? And it's just like, I admire you so much for how you approach this part of your life, and it's inspirational. And it also says a lot about you because it shows you what your standards are in general, and then you learn from that. And again, that's where it goes into now you've got 2 people who are admiring each other, now they're both putting efforts towards a relationship, and they're both rolling over and thinking, "Wow, I'm so lucky."
I mean, that is the dream. That's what they write about in songs or we see in every rom-com is there's so much adversity, but it's just right.
I have seen that. It's absolutely possible. I will say, though, that it only starts with the self score. Is a numerical assessment of self worth. This is not going to happen to people feeling lucky to have each other if you have low self worth. Because if you have low self worth, you're going to start projecting behaviors that are unhealed, such as neediness, such as an anxious attachment style, constantly like needing validation, right? Jealousy could be one of them as well. Avoidance could be something else, right? In terms of how it manifests. So if you have a low self score, you're not likely going to show up in a secure way. If you have a high self score and your partner has a low self score, maybe they just got fired from their job and they're really taking it hard, right? And for 6 months now they haven't found anything and now it's starting to show it how they feel about themselves, right? So that's a very unfortunate case, but it does happen, right? Or it could be a low self score of sadly a dysfunctional home when they were growing up and now they just lack self worth. And anything they do, they just don't feel solid within themselves, right? Those unhealed patterns will show, and it's always a reflection of a low self score. So, with that, you can feel lucky to be with someone, but there's a healthy way to project that. There's a healthy way to communicate and to feel that you're lucky. And if you have a low self score, you're probably not going to project that in a healthy way. you're probably going to project that in a negative, needy, jealous, anxious type of way. But if you have a high self score, you will project that in positive communication, in open body language, in confidence when you compliment the partner, just confidence knowing that it's okay to think that your partner is admirable, right? If you're unhealed, that there might be a fear attached to thinking that your partner is above you because you might lose them. But if you're self confident, it'll be a source of joy that you feel that you're with this partner. And then you'll just have a smile on your face, right? And feel like it's okay. Like they've got their shit together. I'm so lucky to have them, but I also have my shit together. So that's great too.
We all have different shit that we're working on it. Hopefully, I mean, sometimes it is the same issue at the same time, but usually it's something different, and it goes back to that balance that yin and yang that you were talking about, which is what we always should be trying to attain to.
Mhm.
Is just finding balance, balancing ourselves, balancing our partners, balancing the world around us, even though sometimes we feel like we have no control over that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, the second thing I wanted to step back on that I don't know how I forgot this in the introduction, guys, Zoe has a book. That's kind of what we've been talking about this whole time.
Oh my god, I totally missed that too.
Sometimes when you're just so excited, so eager, I was like,
So
we just get right
funny.
into it. Well, Zoe, can you tell us, hey, the name of your book?
Right. Okay, it's hilarious that we missed this part. I wrote a book. The book is called Love Can In Fact Be Calculated. Everything that we're talking about right now is that love can in fact be calculated.
Yeah. So if you're like, they're talking about numbers, scores,
What
what?
are they talking about?
Yeah. I figured a little context might actually help.
Oh my god, that's funny. It's okay. Hopefully we didn't lose anyone. And now it probably makes sense. They're like, "Okay,
Yeah.
I see."
Honestly, if you've made it this far into the video or into the episode, you have to leave a comment and be like, title question mark because I want to go back and look at that to be like, what's happening? I love that.
Right. God.
It's always so different from what the reader perceives versus what the creator intended.
Mhm.
So you have quite a few chapters in this book, but do you have a favorite chapter? I know, right?
Sorry.
They're like your baby, so it's hard to pick your favorite one, but
Yeah,
sometimes we
yeah.
do have one.
I have a favorite section, which is the
Okay.
section about the distortions. Distortions are what happens when there are score distortions. So the first one, for example, is the self-sacrificer versus the self-focused. The self-sacrificer will gladly abandon their score and their self-score so that they can help their partner work on their score, the self-focus, right? And the self-focus will gladly take time and energy from the self sacrificer, even though they know that they're abandoning their values and how they show up for their values to take their time and to take their energy to boost their score. The other one is the infatuation distortion. This is what happens when you have someone way above you scores wise, and then how that pans out. And essentially, you fall into a dynamic of worship, which is inherently a turnoff for the person being worshiped, right? I think I have maybe about 15 score distortions here, that I identified. So I would say that that's probably my favorite section because you can apply it to either your circumstances, your family circumstances, your friend circumstances, and think that's why. Right, and it always relates back to scores. Scores. Whether one person thinks that they're better than the other, what happens when there are score distortions, perceptions are getting distorted, and how that manifests into relationship dysfunction.
That was actually one of the segments that I kind of bit off a lot throughout the quick read I did because you did name a few. I almost equated them to like zodiac signs. Everybody just has one. Some people might dabble between both, but
Yeah.
I do think I see so many people fitting into these categories, these distortions that you have went over. Now, this is also your personal opinion, preference. People who read might get something different, but out of all of those distortions, is there one that you think the least compatible in today's dating culture?
I would say that the one I see the most is the self-sacrificer versus the self-focus like I talked about, because that is probably the most prominent one. that I've seen where you just abandon yourself to appease somebody else. And sadly, oftentimes, you do come across people who are inherently self focused, self centered, and will gladly take your energy, gladly overtake from you. And the worst part is when they feel entitled to that. There's a few others here. The black hole is one that I think is relevant not just for relationships, but friendships in general. So, a black hole is a person. This person will either make you think that you're not achieving in that value and make you feel like crap, or they will, in fact, reduce that score. So, for example, if you work really hard on your finances and you have a partner who overspends, maybe gambles or whatever, right? That's a black hole. That's someone who's reducing that thing that you're working so hard for, your own personal standards, reducing how you show up for that standard. But then it can also be a matter of perception. Let's assume that you're an income earner, I'm just throwing out a number, okay, of 100,000, whatever, per year. And you are with a partner who, let's say, earns 500, 600, 700,000. But beyond that, they also have those general standards. They make you feel like you're not earning enough. Is that the truth though? 100,000? That's totally decent. That's fine.
That's solid.
Yeah, exactly. The way they speak to you may make you feel like you should doubt yourself in terms of how you show up here. Now, again, this is not limited to partners. Friends do this too. Family members absolutely do this too, right? So it's so important to identify a black hole. This is someone who sucks your score out, sucks all those points that you work so hard on, right? That's the black hole where every time you're around them, it's like, "Oh god, I feel like shit right now. Like, where the hell is my self-worth?" And if it's constant where you're feeling that way, I would just, suggest to either draw some boundaries or at the very least identify that they hold that pattern. And I'm not gonna say it's intentional or malicious. Oftentimes it can just be, unhealed patterns that they have within themselves. They might not even realize that they do it. Regardless of that, just be aware of it. There are so many others here that I could go through, to be honest with you, because I have experience with pretty much all of these. Let me know if there's others you want me to go through.
Here's the thing that I love about this book. We love imagery that we can connect to or that just stands out. I guarantee 100% of the people who hear the black hole are not going to forget it. They're going to name at least 2 or 3 people in their head, in their lives that they're like,
Yeah.
"This is that person." Yeah.
Oh, that's a black hole.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I've dated too many black holes, but I've worked with a couple black holes.
Mhm.
Sometimes people hear the word relationship and they automatically think romance. But there are so many other types of relationships which these scenarios occur in or that we are involved in that I think if we started applying them unilaterally across all of them, we probably would have happier or at least slightly less chaotic lives.
Totally, totally. And that just comes down to a experience, right? Like experience is very important. That way you actually have data to see what it feels like to be with someone who's not a black hole and who boosts you and encourages you to be better versus a black hole, someone who completely strips you away of your self-worth, whether they're putting unhealthy thoughts in your mind or they're actually, in fact, anchoring you and taking away all those things that you work so hard on. To your point, we all have someone like this. Again, I would like to say that it doesn't mean that they're malicious. They might not even realize that they're doing it, but it's so important to identify and to draw boundaries.
I love that you also are making that distinction because sometimes we are our own blind spot, so we don't know how we appear to others. So you're right, you don't do it to put them down, but it still may be the result of the interactions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's really simple. If you walk away from someone, do you constantly feel drained or like shit? It's literally that simple, right? It's just a one-time thing where you felt off, okay, whatever, whatever, right? But if it's constant and almost every time, they're probably pinging your subconscious to make you self-doubt, or if they're bringing drama and chaos into your life, That's not healthy either. That means that like you're not walking away with joy, you're walking away with chaos. It's not as hard as it sounds to identify these people, right? It just comes down to, are you in touch with yourself and with your own feelings and with your own emotions and intuition? And can you tell whether you feel like crap? If you can tell, then great. That's all you need to know.
Now, before we get into my favorite part of the book, can you go over the nostalgic? I think that is another one that may rear its head just a bit.
So imagine you date someone and they broke your heart. And now you think, oh my God, they were the most amazing partner ever. And I'm never going to meet anyone like them. Now you're looking for people who fit exactly this partner's lifestyle, this partner's traits, and you're not giving yourself any room or flexibility to look for a partner who might be a good match because you think that's your only match and you've narrowed down your match to just this exact specific profile. Okay. That's the nostalgic distortion. That means that you're not willing to be flexible. So let's say for example, one of your top 5 values is education. Okay. Now let's assume this partner was educated and they're an MD, they're a doctor. Is that the only form of education? If you're a nostalgic, that's exactly what you're going to look for. You're going to look for the MD, the doctor, the PhD, whatever, right? Someone with a very, very high degree of education. But the reality is that other people can be just equally educated, maybe in different ways, maybe, lower tier degrees, school degrees, or maybe not at all. Maybe they're just educated in different things. Are you narrowing your under perception and perspective of what that value truly means? Another example could be dependability and reliability. Let's assume that that's one of your top 5 values, okay? And the partner who left you heartbroken, the way they were dependable and reliable, maybe they picked you up from work every day and dropped you off every day. Maybe now that's your laser sharp, narrow focus in terms of what dependability and reliability means. Let's be honest. Is that the only way to be dependable and reliable? Of course not. Of course not. So, if you're specifically looking for these traits or these lifestyle dynamics and they resemble a little too much your ex, you're probably suffering from the nostalgic distortion, where you're only willing to give matching scores to people who fit a very narrow definition of a match, and you're not allowing yourself to expand further. And once again, this is not trauma based, but you're unhealed.
Yeah.
These are unhealed behaviors. And clearly, I would suggest and recommend that you work through that.
I'm all about accountability here on the show. The reason I asked you to speak on that is because I very much was a nostalgic for the longest. I think, and I've said this throughout the show, that I've been in love twice. And any person who I see as the one or a good fit for me
Mhm.
all stems back from that first time of being in love. That original person was the template. And I was like, you know
Mhm.
what? This it's almost cookie cutter. This is a match. But I pigeonholed myself into thinking this, and I probably missed out on a lot of quality people, great relationships
Yeah.
because I kept looking for that thing that I had.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad that you have the awareness of that, right? I think again, it's very easy to fall into a spiral or a hole rather of like I need this exact type of person, right? And you don't give yourself the opportunity to expand your mind and expand your heart. And then even if you find someone who happens to match that perfectly, that kinda sucks. That means that your ex will literally always be on your mind because of all similar traits. You're not letting yourself move on, right?
Right.
I just remembered this gives me Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, and Kevin Federline vibes. Like, Kevin wasn't that a duplicate kind of Justin
Yeah.
Timberlake, right? It's like, "Ooh, yeah, she's heartbroken." She definitely suffered from the nostalgic distortion at the time, sadly, I think.
I think a lot of people have, whether it's like their puppy love crush or, when they first get out of a long-term relationship, they go with what feels familiar and they have these repeat cycles. They may look a little different, but they're kind of the same person.
Yeah. Yeah. And hey, if that same person, if we chose to leave you, do you really want a replica of them? I don't mean to be mean.
You would think, but I mean, sometimes we're just gluttons for pain.
You go the opposite way and say, "Oh god, no."
That's what makes us dumpster fires sometimes. We're like,
I love
ooh,
that. The
highly
dumpster
combustible.
fire.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have
Listen,
to start using that.
we burn bright and people can't take their eyes off of us for better or worse, usually for worse.
Yeah. Love it.
We talked a lot of theory of your book. Now, I think this is just real life application of it. The modern dating world has so many new terms and new rules from at least when I started dating and probably when you started dating too. So bringing it back to 2025,
Mhm.
from ghosting to swiping, have dating apps made us maybe a little bit too picky or too jealous or disposable?
Yeah. I refer to dating apps as fast dating. So imagine you've got fast food, fast fashion, dating apps, fast dating. It's not going to be healthy for your mind, right? Of course, there are people who have found their ones and they were lucky and everything, but I think all in all, the general consensus is that it's a pool of people who are not taking dating seriously, and we are now normalizing a lot of unhealthy behavior behaviors, and we are normalizing unethical, in my opinion, behaviors in dating, whether it's breadcrumbing or ghosting or whatever. I don't know. It's such a shit show out there for the daters, right?
Yeah.
So I would just say that, yeah, you can go on this app, but it's like going to McDonald's to get full, right? You might get your little slight dopamine hit. You might get, your slight validation. You've got your little like moment of intimacy with someone that you've met through the app, but the reality is that this person has 10 other people in their DMs. So yeah, you'll get your little hit. Just the way with McDonald's, you'll get full. But the question is that quality? And is that something that you should be doing in the long run? In the long run, I think it would cause serious emotional, I don't know if harm is the right word here, but like emotional maybe dysfunctions and maybe normalizing things that really should not be normal when it comes to love and dating.
I love that. And I couldn't really agree. I think we've become too addicted to the access, too
Mhm.
addictive to the instant gratification or the instant disappointment of
Right.
not getting matches. Just, I think the cons have started outweighing the pros that
Mhm.
it might have originally been intended for.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I do think that there are some people out there who have good intentions in terms of using the app to just see who's out there and maybe they'll find a match. But I also think that a lot of people are jumping into this app when they're just getting over a relationship and looking to play the field, or maybe they're bored, maybe they're non-committal. Maybe I think that the majority of the people on these apps are probably falling in the second category, not the first category. Right? In other words, it's not intentional dating. It's just how do I pass time? How do I go on a date? And maybe it'll work and maybe it won't. And you know what? If there's something that doesn't fit right in terms of the person that you're going on a date with, well, you have a whole other pool of people you can swipe right on. So then you become picky, you look for a unicorn, right? Good luck.
Another reason I bring that up is the statistic is like all women are usually dating the same 20% of men.
Really?
Yeah, so it's like there are
I did not
80% of
know
men
that.
that just get passed over on these apps because of maybe like height or lack
Mm,
of creativity in crafting a profile.
right.
When so much of dating profiles are superficial kind of ad pieces, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I did not know that, but that makes sense. It makes sense, right? You're looking for a unicorn, and there are some people who are going to be naturally better on paper, and that's all that is, better on paper. Does not mean anything in terms of
Right.
how they'll show up and whether they'll be a rock, whether they're dependable, whether there's chemistry. It literally does not mean anything, right? And so, yeah, what you're saying makes perfect sense. It goes back to fast dating. There's no quality behind this. you know?
No, I love that. You've talked about your book Forever in a Day, and you've been on a couple different shows. I mean, your friends and family have asked you about it, but I feel like I can't act like I'm the most original person ever because I'm not. Any idea I've had, somebody else has had too. So, as you've been doing this, running through the marketing, the PR, and kind of like the press tour, is there anything that you just really wanted to talk about that you haven't had the opportunity or space to talk about? Whether it's your book or your work or just something you noticed about society. I know it was a very like fat out of nowhere question, but
Yeah, no, that's okay. Here's the thing, I've been very fortunate to have varied conversations in regards to this. So far, I can't say that there's been anything that I haven't had a chance to express, but there is always one point that I make sure that I emphasize on the shows if there's anyone listening. And that's that everything starts with the self score. You have to build on your self score and you have to feel secure within yourself, right? This is a numerical assessment of self worth. This is the most important component in terms of entering a relationship and making sure you're making the right decisions and also having solid standards, right? Also, the personality types, I would encourage anyone to do this just to see if you fall under any of the extreme personality types. If you're an extreme critic, for example, be careful with that. Beyond you yourself not being able to to get into a relationship, you're also causing damage to the other person and you're hurting their self-esteem. And I would just say be careful with that, right? It's that cliche of you can't love someone unless you love yourself. The analytics are specifically confirming that, specifically, because the people who were in a relationship had a high self score. Work on your self score and you'll be fine.
wait, I wanna get you in front of the people who do all the casting for all the reality dating shows. I would just be so interested to see how people score themselves before they go into like The Bachelor or Love Island or anything else like that. And then right before the reunion show at the end, let's score ourselves again and just to see how that's kind of changed. It's amazing to know who you are and where you value yourself, like where you place yourself, but also how these experiences kind of shift our perspective.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, I would love to as well. I'm always watching these shows like Married at First Sight or like
Oh yeah.
Blind Date, and every time I watch it, I'm like, "Oh god, I could give so much perspective on this." Like, there's so much I could say.
Right.
But no, like the opportunity hasn't come up, nor have I really reached out for the opportunity. But hey, Josh, if you know anyone, you send them my way.
Listen, the best type of plug is the shameless plug. So we will definitely do that.
Totally shameless.
Now, you said something that kind of sparked something in the good old noggin.
Okay.
So normally I have a section called the quickie questions, and
Okay.
that is just like 5, 6 questions, rapid response
Mhm.
to get to know you as a person.
Okay.
Zoe, we are so interested in you. So obviously we'll have to bring you back a little bit later to talk about your next book or the next big chapter in your life. But today, I think we're going to shake it up a little bit. If love can in fact be calculated, let's do a little game.
Okay.
Calculated or chaotic? You in?
Calculated or chaotic? Love it.
Yeah. Alrighty. So really simple. I'm gonna go over a couple quick scenarios.
Mhm.
I want you to think, are they calculated? Like they are designed to help me find a good partner, or are they chaotic? Just messy dating things that should not happen. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right. In the first one, you kind of like started talking about it. Falling in love at first sight.
Calculated.
Okay. So a lot of people, that's like a really big debate. Can we do it? Can we not? And I do think falling in love is a beautiful moment, but it may not always be enough to sustain a relationship. So
Yeah,
I'll agree
okay.
with calculated.
Actually, I'm gonna retract that. I think I have a better idea now of the calculated versus chaotic. You're totally I don't believe in I believe in attraction at first sight. I believe in perspective and perception at first sight, but love at
There,
first 100%. You're
there, there you go. Get down with that one too. I was like, lava. Now, staying friends with your ex.
Chaotic.
I am a bit chaotic, so it tracks. I'll go that way too. I think maybe 90% of my exes, we still talk, we're still friends. They've met other partners. They're married. I've been to their weddings.
Hey, if it works for you, that's great.
Yeah.
I get
Oh,
away
you're
with
right. Not everybody can
I'll
do
be
this.
honest with you. No one is gonna let me get away.
That's not true. You cannot be a bad ex. You're probably, well, maybe if they're nostalgic, yeah,
It's
you should
not
probably stay
bad.
away. Long distance relationships.
I said chaotic. I said chaotic. I think it's too tough. Unless there's a goal and a plan to eventually come back, but if there is no plan, especially if they start in the same city and then they move away from each other, it's like, what are you gonna do with that?
Right.
So if there's no plan and then if there's no quote unquote calculation or pragmatic steps to get back together, yeah, that's like a disaster waiting to happen
That's
and
why shows like
prolonging the
Love
inevitable.
Island, I think maybe The Bachelor or Married at First Sight too. Married at First Sight, they're kind of like in the same city or relatively close, but I was like, you fall for this person who you have no proximity to. So
Yeah.
that's a really big hurdle to have to deal with as soon as you try to start a relationship, especially
Yeah.
one in like a heightened public situation like that.
Totally. And in fact, with Married at First Sight, I remember there was a couple that lived on opposite sides of the city, and one person was renting, but she was happy to do that because she didn't want to be stuck with a mortgage. He was a property owner, but the property was not like it was okay, it was decent, right? But maybe not to the standards of what she wanted in terms of, being in the hustle bustle of like the downtown area. And that was an issue. That was an issue, right? So yeah, like proximity and environment obviously is important for lifestyle compatibility. Like, there has to be that, right?
Speaking of quote unquote celebrity couples, couples who post every second of their relationship on Instagram or social media.
I feel like to each their own generally. But personally, for me as a person, oh God, I would hate that. I would hate that for everyone to just see what I'm up to, be in my business, for me to constantly have to perform and whatever. For me, would hate that. But for everyone else, to each their own. If that makes you happy and if that boosts you and you want to share it with the world and whatever it may be, that's fine. But I will say that I have an issue with children being plastered all over social media because they don't have a say. That I don't feel good about, to be honest with you. And I would say that like generally, not just for myself, but generally that I think is chaotic.
You're so much nicer than I am because I definitely have polarized opinions and I need everybody to know them. I feel like I gotta get you to be a little shaken up a little bit. Like, yeah.
Go for it. Go for it. I'm
Okay.
ready.
Moving in after 3 months.
Chaotic as fuck. Are you kidding me? No, dude, don't do that. That sounds an awful, awful.
I got her to swear. I means I did it right. No,
Is that what you were? You're like, I need her passion to come out.
100%. You're just so composed. And I was like, no, come on, Zoe, give it to me.
Yeah, no, that was an obvious one. That sounds like a disaster, an absolute fucking disaster.
Yeah. And I'm definitely judging you for it on the inside and out.
We
Okay.
cannot be friends if you do this.
Yeah. Office romances. Not as chaotic, but still pretty messy, in my opinion.
I've seen couples that have made it work through office romance.
Hmm.
So I'm not gonna say chaotic. I think if there's pragmatic steps into connecting and doing it in a way where it doesn't affect your work and you're happy, I think that's fine. I think that's fine, especially in the workplace because that's where people connect, right? Of course, if you're both coupled, and that's awful, right? But if you're both single and you spend all this time together and feelings develop, in my opinion, who is anyone to say that you're about to jump into something chaotic. Your emotions say yes. Your body says yes. You've gone to know this person. So I would actually say calculated. I think that can work. I think it can work.
I think it's calculated if you're not in the same department. But if we're in the same department, we see each other 40 hours a week, that means
Well,
that's pretty much just Instagram for real life because now the
yeah,
whole office gets to see most of your relationship.
yeah,
But
it's
like you
true.
said, to each their own.
Mhm.
I could be wrong, and you guys could just be a match made in theoretical algorithms.
Yeah, I mean, if the company is big enough, maybe asking for a transfer to a separate department and seeing what HR would say about that. But again, like I believe that people will do anything for love. If you fall in love with a coworker, that's not something you can just block, especially if you see them every day,
Yeah,
right? So at that point, it's like, okay, do we take the risk? Do we not take the risk? And in my experience, most people, if they're in love, will take a risk. And I understand that. And I think I would too, to be honest with you.
if you can't take a risk on love, what can you take a risk on?
Yeah,
I can get behind that.
yeah, and it's such a human, raw emotion that cutting out love is very painful, or not acting on a desire is very painful, and it hurts. So imagine having a coworker that you see every day that you've gone to know for a year that you think is just so amazing, and it hurts you to not be able to touch them, and knowing they wanna touch you back, right? It's like, in my opinion, I'd say, "Fuck it. It's been 1 year. We
Right.
can do this. Let's figure it out." Right?
Okay, last question. Getting back with the person who ghosted you.
It would depend on the reason for why they ghosted and whether they've acknowledged it, whether they've grown from it. If they do all of that, then let them earn their trust back, but I wouldn't if they handle it very well and you really like them or even love them, in my opinion, I would say take your little steps to let them earn back the love, and just be mindful and be discerning. Would I call it a deal breaker?
But that's like a one-off though. You don't get a second chance, right?
Hell no. Not only do you not give a second chance, you better put your best foot forward until I decide that you can ease up a bit, right? Like the person who ghosted, this is no longer a normal relationship where it's
Yeah.
equal give and take. No, now you give a
You have to
lot.
graft. Yeah, you gotta put that work
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, exactly. You know, put your best foot forward for as long as the girl, a guy, the person who got ghosted, as long as they need to feel secure. And if they're not willing to do that and they think it's gonna be exactly the same dynamic, no, I would say no. They're not no. You don't get to do that and then just pretend nothing happened. You work
Exactly.
for it. You work for that trust again.
I was like, I wish I can say I think it's calculated, but I think it's chaotic because or maybe it's because my instance was extreme and I was like, you know what? No, it's just messy.
Mhm.
I gave somebody who ghosted a second chance. It went well for like another month. And then they ghosted again. I was like, serial ghosting is crazy.
Dang it.
Like, I was like,
Not again. We've been through
again. Like,
this.
I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
I
Like,
am so sorry that happened.
after we talked about it, I was like, hey, I get that we may not work, but a text, a call, a simple chat, easy. They're like, yeah.
I am
Hello,
so
are you
sorry.
okay? Like, you know, honestly, it was a great character development moment for me because I'm not a skeptic when it comes to love or people. I was like, I love believing in people and giving a second chance. But it also taught me when people show you who they are, you kind
Believe
of have
them.
to accept it.
Yeah. I'm so sorry you went through that, and you did something very human, by the way. You gave a second chance because you were optimistic and because, however she approached you obviously worked. It's very disappointing that she did it a second time.
Yeah. I was like, you know what?
No wonder you're like, "Oh, totally chaotic." No wonder
Yeah, 100%. Fool me once.
otherwise you would have been on my side with the calculated.
Yeah. I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, people like things happen. Things don't keep happening, or
I'm
sometimes they
so
do, but
sorry that happened. Are
yeah.
you okay? Did you have to heal through
I don't know. No, we're good. We've
At
made a
least we
recovery.
laugh about the ridiculousness of it, and if she's listening, I hope she knows that it was totally ridiculous. Sorry.
Listen, it helped thicken the plot. Talked about it on international TV, radio, internet,
There
World
you
Wide Web. So the whole world knows that
go, worldwide.
you double ghosted. I'm not gonna say your name because I'm not a villain right now, but you double ghosted and you know who
Girl,
you
you
are.
double ghosted, you came
Yeah,
back, and then you
yeah.
did sorry.
There are so many patterns that you could repeat that are unproblematic. That is not one of them.
Oh, man. What a disaster. I'm glad that we can laugh about that. I'm glad that you're laughing about it and you're sharing the story.
Listen, dumpster fires attract dumpster fires. What can I say? Moth to a flame. Zoe, thank you so much for today. It's been fun. I think we learned a lot. I learned a lot. And I know everybody's excited to pick up Love Can in fact be calculated. If you I know you have it on your desk with you, so you know which book to buy.
Yeah. There you go,
But
guys.
there you go. In case you forget the title, you at least know
Read my life.
the cover, so what you should be getting. But I will also leave the link to grab that book down below, along with every other way you can contact Zoe if you just want to follow her, see what her next piece of work is. Speaking of your next piece of work, what does the rest of 2025 look like for you? I know we're
Yeah, I'm probably just gonna continue doing the podcasts. I have a company as well, so just work on the company, make sure clients are happy, team is happy. But in terms of the book, I think I'm just going to continue spreading the word, join podcasts. And honestly, I kind of told myself that I don't know where it's gonna land in terms of the popularity of the idea or whether it resonates. I really don't know, which to me is fine because it'll get to where it's meant to get to. I don't have a set goal in mind. I'm just doing this because I enjoy it, sparks my soul. I really enjoy meeting people like you and having these conversations. So again, even if it doesn't land, it's something that I just really enjoy.
beautiful. Well, Zoe, once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us for a little bit. Thank
You.
you guys in the Not So Bad fam for also hanging out with us for a while. You guys always show so much love, and I'm giving it right back to you. I will see all you amazing bachelors, bachelorettes, and partner people next week for an all new episode of the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad. See you guys.